and welcome to Learning with Lulu. In this video, we are going to do a summary of chapter 20 in Nathaniel Hawthorne's The Scarlet Letter. Before we get started, definitely make sure to show your support for the channel and the time that it takes to prepare for these videos by doing all the usual things. Subscribe, and by the end, make sure to like and share. And definitely, this one isn't so much because it does anything other than interest me, but share your thoughts on the chapters as you are going through the book and what your interpretation or analysis of the events that transpire in the chapters or the themes that are being explored. Yeah, I love literature, obviously. I put a lot of time into helping others get a grasp on ELA because I myself love it and know that there's so much value in it. For that reason, I love discussing literature with other people. So if you have any questions or thoughts or just musings, please make sure to share them in the comment section below the video. So that being said, chapter 20 is titled The Minister in a Maze. This chapter is heavily focused on Arthur Dimmesdale. And I say heavily because I feel like it gives him even more attention than majority of the book has up till now. Obviously, you know, other previous chapters have focused on him, but this one now flips very strongly to him and the events that transpire right after his revelation of Chillingworth's true identity and his and Hester's plan, or Hester and his plan to go to Europe. And as he's returning to town, he can hardly handle how much better he feels. He feels like his luck has completely changed. Maybe not necessarily luck, but just like providence and the prospect that his life now has. The reason he and Hester have decided on Europe is because they think it's going to be a better place for his health. I also imagine that, that's where Hester is from. Like, she was born in Europe. I'm sure it also kind of has this feeling of returning home, kind of returning to, again, last chapter we talked a lot about identities, but being able to kind of recapture, especially for Hester, who she used to be in. So I'm sure that's why she's encouraging there, and you know, it does just allow this rebirth and perhaps even a return to a previous identity that felt safer and more secure. Now, we know that Hester has been a beacon of goodness and charity to her community, and in her connections that she's established, you know, she's talking with a lot more people than maybe your average town citizen. She has learned that there is a ship that is going to be going to England in 4 days. And Arthur Dimmesdale and Hester Prynne with their beautiful little Pearl, I say there, but I don't know, I feel like she's really just her mother's child as of right now. Not even Pearl really wants to attach herself to her father at this point. But they are going to make sure that they are on this boat that's going to be leaving in 4 days. So anyway, as I was saying, he's going back feeling much more optimistic about his prospects, and he's feeling so free that he just wants to say to everything and everyone that essentially, I'm not the same guy that you thought I was. He's back in the forest. I'm someone completely different. I'm a new person. I'm a new being. I've been born again. Not those exact words, but that's kind of what I get from it. Anything that has just kind of become commonplace and that he's taken for granted in his life, things that used to be super familiar to him are just feeling foreign to him now. They feel strange and more distant. even his previous identity. As he's walking through town, feeling like this completely new person, he passes another one of the other ministers, and it says that he almost wants to just like blurt out blasphemous thoughts that he has, that he's either having or has had all along. And he passes a woman who's kind of needing some like spiritual guidance and comfort, and he doesn't actually say anything to her, but something which is quite the opposite, almost just kind of throwing out how chaotic the world and the divine processes of things really are. But that's what he wants to say. Then he encounters a young woman. So far he's seen a minister, an elderly lady, and now he's seen a young woman who has just recently converted. And he doesn't want to say anything because he's afraid that this state of mind that he's in, that's feeling so foreign, like free but foreign, he is worried to say anything to her because he doesn't want to, sow some seed of immorality in her heart. And then after the young woman, that he's like, oh, I don't want to, essentially like corrupt her by saying anything that I shouldn't to her. He sees a group of children playing, and he's inclined to teach them some wicked words. And he doesn't, but like he wants to. It's almost like everything that he's been suppressing in himself, all the thoughts that he's been told he shouldn't be having are like trying to bubble up out of him. I don't think that means that all of those are even right. Like, should he be teaching kids wicked words? Probably not. They're not his kids. And that's kind of a harmless little thing. But it's just, he's going through this weird experience. And I think perhaps someone might argue, like, oh, everything he's been suppressing is now trying to break out of him, and that's a good thing. And I don't necessarily agree with that. I know, in some indigenous proverbs, it's like there's two forces within yourself. There's the light and the dark. We all have it, and what are you going to feed? So I don't think every thought that passes through someone's mind should be shared or expressed or acted upon. I think everyone needs to be mindful of that. And I think what's happening to Arthur Dimmesdale right now is he's having this experience where in his situation, in his culture, the Puritan society, they are extremely suppressing so much stuff that is even like nowadays we are kind of like, yeah, that doesn't really need to be a thing. And who's to say who's right? I think it's just all trying to get out of him, because now he's like allowed himself an inch, and now it's like his mind or his ego is like trying to take a mile. So anyway, after he sees this group of children that he basically wants to teach some swear words to, he sees a sailor who he knows is a sailor on the ship that he and Hester want to escape on, and he wants to talk to him and kind of have a conversation. And so we've got the sailor, and then we see Mistress Hibbins, who, remember, she's the sister of the top community government, and she's also a known engager in like witchcraft. She knows that he's been in the forest, and she laughs about it and is like, hey, next time you go, like, let me be the one taking you into the forest. And remember, when she goes into the forest, she's making pacts with the devil, apparently. And so I think it's implied a little bit there that she's kind of like assuming that he's been off making pacts with the devil, which in probably their community's mind, by their standards, he essentially has been. He's planning to kind of abandon this society's rules, kind of follow nature, and go off with the woman who he does have affection for, go with their biological child, and like continue on as a family. That's how the world goes around is children, prosperity, and it's almost like he's choosing to take hold of that, and he's feeling so free naturally. You know, at that time, nature was below, nature was lower, heaven's above and of higher, and we should strive for that which is the intangible and spiritual, and earthly things are base and low and evil. According to them, that's like not at all how I feel about spirituality. And just like my interpretation of that, Dimmesdale having Mistress Hibbins be like, hey, I'll be your escort next time you go into the forest, he interprets it the exact same way. He's just like, oh shoot, like, did I just make a pact with the devil? And it does disturb him a little bit, it does make him a little bit uncomfortable. So anyway, he's gone through town, met all of these different people, had all of these, and I'm going to use this term, intrusive thoughts, as he walks. Quick little tangent, I see a lot on social media, people use the term intrusive thoughts and impulsive thoughts interchangeably. And maybe Arthur Dimmesdale's thoughts as he's been walking have been more impulsive. I do want to just take a moment and urge a lot of you who are watching this, make sure that you know the difference between the two. Intrusive thoughts are thoughts that should not be acted upon. They're thoughts that the individual does not want, that are not helpful to their life or to others. Whereas impulsive thoughts are just like, oh, I want a cookie, so I ate a cookie. Or, hey, I want to like push over this water bottle, so I'm going to push over this water bottle. Like, they don't actually have any consequence. Intrusive thoughts do. Intrusive thoughts are painful to the person having them. Impulsive thoughts, it's just kind of like, okay, you were just, you know, you getting a haircut, thinking you want a haircut and getting a haircut, that's not an intrusive thought. That's an impulsive thought that you acted upon. And as someone who has experienced postpartum anxiety and postpartum depression with intrusive thoughts, I really want people to know the difference and stop saying that they acted on their intrusive thoughts, because intrusive thoughts are very painful things and they're nothing to be ashamed of. Seek professional help if they become overwhelming and start to negatively impact your day-to-day, and professional help can help you cope with those. But point of that tangent is stop talking about acting on intrusive thoughts, those minor things that don't actually cause anyone pain or anything. Those are not intrusive thoughts. Those are impulsive thoughts that you acted upon. Anyway, tangent over. Okay, so Dimmesdale gets back to the house after he's gone through town, and he sees Trillingworth and he says, hey dude, I don't want any of the crap you've been giving me anymore. And by crap, I mean any of the drugs that he's been concocting for him. We know that he has been secretly and maliciously tormenting Dimmesdale to take revenge for Dimmesdale being the father of Pearl, aka being intimate with his estranged wife, Hester Prynne. So Dimmesdale says, hey, I don't want any of your drugs anymore. Trillingworth starts to become a little wary, a little anxious, and he does not want to outright say, like, do you know who I really am? But he suspects it. Now, in 3 days, so the day before he and Hester want to run away to Europe together, in 3 days is election day, and Dimmesdale has been writing a sermon that he wants to deliver that day. The person who started writing the sermon that he has, like on this manuscript, is not the person that he is now. Remember, he left that person in the forest. And so he takes that manuscript that he had started of this sermon and burns it. He throws it in the fire, goes up in flames, which, you know, I'm an English teacher, so of course I'm going to add symbolic meaning to that, but that's what I do. So think about that symbolically. He is burning it. It's the destruction symbolically of his former viewpoints, and also he's destroying it by fire. Fire, especially in like classic literature, in mythology, think of what's his name, Prometheus. Like, fire represents knowledge and illumination, and so it's like this new light that has infused him is burning up and turning to ash. And ash is actually very nourishing. It's great for plants to grow in soil that has been exposed to ash or has ash in it. Yeah, he's destroying in this way that former manuscript, and he's going to start writing a new one, a new sermon that he can deliver in 3 days, the day before he and Hester plan to run away to Europe. And he's going to share this on election day, which is kind of a civil and religious holiday. It's the start of a new legislative season or session. We will have to see where things go from there. That's where the chapter ends, chapter 20. Shortest way of saying what happens in this chapter is Dimmesdale leaves the forest a new man. He's left his old version of self back in the forest, goes through town, wants to say kind of some off-color things to people he passes. He gets back home, he says to Chillingworth, I don't want your drugs anymore, stop giving them to me. He throws away his old sermon manuscript that he's going to give in 3 days and starts writing a new one with this new view and freedom in life that he is feeling. So there's chapter 20 for you. Hope that is helpful. Comment your thoughts on the chapter down below. And for the sake of keeping this video somewhat short, I'll just end it there. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you back around.